Well, it's great to be with you, Arabile. Thanks so much for having me. I think that that's certainly a big part of the decision. I think DeSantis still has aims on getting to the White House someday, probably 2028. And I think he thinks that his best chance right now is to jump on the bandwagon. And clearly the bandwagon is with Trump. It's possible because he jumped out early that he could be in a position for maybe a cabinet post. I'm thinking attorney general or something like that. But basically, he didn't want to be on the wrong side of Trump, which most Republicans don't want to be on the wrong side of Trump. And what they're thinking about is the future of their political careers. So DeSantis is no different on that front.
Has to do a little bit, though, still to kind of endear himself back to the MAGA crowd, considering how much he's had to say against Donald Trump in his running, right?
You're right. And campaigns are always sort of like this. But, the thing with politics is that wounds tend to heal pretty quickly, and voters tend to have a relatively short memory. And so, there's going to be this process where DeSantis is going to be trying to ingratiate himself with Trump. I already saw that Trump said that he's retiring the phrase Ron DeSanctimonious, which, of course, was sort of his nickname for Ron DeSantis. And so you can see the two coming back together. So this is actually quite typical. You see the candidates sort of pivot, say nice things about the front runner, and then sort of all is well, and they're one big happy family. So it's not perfect, but it's kind of the way that American politics tends to work.
Tom, it's really lovely to see you again. I always love listening to your thoughts. Look, I'm going to take a step back. There are a lot of Europeans, and I'm sure a vast number, in fact a huge percentage of your students, who just don't get what's going on, who can't quite understand why characters like DeSantis and Trump are right to the fore of US politics and right to the fore of the Republican Party. Just remind us, Europeans, why the Republican Party is drifting to Mr. Trump yet again, and he remains an iron grip at the moment, it seems, on the Republican Party.
That's a great question, Steve. And, DeSantis's campaign itself was premised on this idea that voters wanted Trumpism without Trump. In reality, voters wanted Trumpism with Trump, or more specifically, they just wanted Trump. I think that's the state of the Republican Party. So nothing DeSantis could have done would have changed that. DeSantis didn't run a perfect campaign, far from it. But for him to have won, I think all the political stars would have had to align, and he would have had to have been flawless. Instead, the 91 criminal indictments against Donald Trump, plus the effort to kick him off the ballot in Maine and Colorado, really guaranteed Trump all the momentum he needed. I think Trump's appeal among the right is so strong right now. More than 8 years after he walked down that golden escalator, the left still fails to fundamentally understand that appeal. Why is that appeal exist? There are lots of different reasons, but I think the number one is just Trump does really well at playing this brand of grievance politics, basically saying, I'm the victim here. The left is out to get me. The left is out to attack me. Oh, and by the way, just like they're out to get me and attack me, they're out to attack you and get you. And so we're all in this together. Donald Trump has just been very effective at that brand of politics. It's resonated, and particularly in post-industrialized towns that have been gutted by globalization and trade, been affected by demographic change. Donald Trump is really able to resonate with him. And I think that that's why, 8 years on from when he first entered the political scene in a real way, that appeal is still so strong.
We spent a lot of time talking about the age of President Biden, but he's only a couple of years behind is Mr. Trump as well. And he made some big mistakes over the last couple of days. Or do we just say that that was a man who's on the campaign trail, who's just basically got a lot on his plate, mixing up Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley? Or actually, is that something that's actually kind of going to have become a bigger story, so to speak?
Well, I think it becomes a bigger story if we see more and more gaffes like that. And, Nikki Haley really jumped on that, and she's been using that as part of her key campaign platform in New Hampshire right now. I still think, just subjectively, that Biden just looks out of it in a way that Donald Trump doesn't, or Donald Trump just seems to have more energy. He seems to have more vigor. Of course, the Biden administration is going to dispute that. But you're right, age-wise, there's not that big of a difference. I just think in the perception of voters, there is a sizable difference. And whether that sizable difference is real or it's just imagined, it's really become part of the narrative narrative, and it's become self-fulfilling for Joe Biden. So something definitely to keep a look at on. And if we do see some more of these gaffes, then I do think that might be drawing some more equivalencies. But for right now, I think the age question is still against Biden.